managers often turn to Google and social media platforms to gain a little bit of additional insight into a prospective employee during the hiring process. And although this can have several benefits, it can be a slippery slope, and there are a few things to take note of during that process. I'm Skye Schooley, a staff writer with business.com, and today I'm joined by Kevin Neudecker, the VP of Quality and Compliance at Corporate Screening, to discuss the pros and cons of social media background checks. To give our viewers a little bit of background, what is a typical social media background check and what does it entail?
It can depend on what the organization is looking for, but often, it's going to be a scan or research into an individual's social media profiles, and it's going to look for anything that might be considered negative. So, it might try to pull back instances of, racist information, illegal activity, maybe instances of harassment, things like that.
Great. And for those who may be considering using a social media background check on either a current or prospective employee, what are some benefits of doing so?
Well, the benefits could potentially be that you'd uncover, negative aspects of somebody's character. And that can come into play depending on the role and the public exposure of that employee. So that might be a reason that some of the organizations have considered doing social media backgrounds either currently or in the future.
Awesome. And when considering using social media background checks, what are some potential consequences to keep in mind?
Well, there's quite a few. One thing to consider, or one of the many things to consider, is the legality of the information that you're obtaining. And using that information in making employment decisions. So, is the information that you're obtaining, is it actual illegal activity, or is it just something that's, they're doing that's legal that maybe not be, perfectly suitable, or maybe on the fringe or something like that. You have a lot of things to consider. Are you obtaining information about this person's race, religion, sexual orientation? Things that you shouldn't factor into your employment decision that you might end up obtaining as part of your social media background. There's confirming the information belongs to your person. That's something that's required when you're doing a regular pre-employment background screening, where you're checking somebody's public record information, which is coming from a court of record. As a background screening company, we have to confirm that information belongs to that person, by matching social, if we can, dates of birth, addresses, things like that. It can be a lot more difficult when you're talking about social media, where it can be hard to confirm that profile that says it's that person actually belongs to that person. You get people with common names, you get people with using shortened names or alias names in their social media profiles. It's pretty common for people to just have their name, first name and middle name, as their name on Facebook or something like that. And then, it can be very difficult to confirm that information even belongs to your person. And people just in general are a lot more savvy with locking that information down from public view. So, your chances of even finding anything anymore that even might be objectionable on a lot of the people's social media profiles, it's pretty hard to come by, because people are a lot better at locking that stuff down than they were 5-10 years ago.
And kind of in that similar vein, what type of laws, either federal or state, should hiring managers or employers keep in mind when considering social media background checks?
We certainly want to consider your any fair hiring laws that you have in your state, and EEOC guidance on use of following equal employment guidelines when making those decisions. And as an organization too, you got to factor in, is this information that you're obtaining possibly through a social media background? It could be something that somebody's just doing in their personal life, on their personal time. Does this really affect their role with your company? Where we see where it seems that the social media backgrounds are becoming a little bit more common are in the due diligence side of things, where it isn't that so much that you're looking to hire somebody, but you might be going into a business relationship with somebody, or some other type of relationship where maybe having that social media information might be more impactful. But typically, when it comes to pre-employment, we don't see it very often that employers are looking to do that. Really, it was kind of one of those things that was a little bit more of like a when it first came into the industry was intriguing for a lot of people, but the adoption of it amongst employers has been not, I wouldn't say very, haven't embraced it, the way that some people might think. When it comes to like, if they're applying for a job, they might think, oh my God, they're going to be checking my Facebook and my Twitter and all that. And, as far as, from what we see in the background screening industry, they're not using us to do that. If employers are doing it on their own, they're certainly, looking at the risks of doing that on their own. But as far as it becoming like a standard part of like a employment background, it's not something that we're seeing.
And lastly, who should consider conducting background checks? Are there certain types of industries or employers that may benefit the most?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I think where it might be, enticing to an employer would be on those individuals that maybe are going to have a public profile that are, it's going to be, just the hiring of the person might be a news item. So that might be something where they might want to do that type of background, or like I said, in the due diligence world, where maybe you're going into a partnership with another company and you want to make sure that the people that are running that company are reputable. And that really kind of falls into kind of a different type of industry, but that might be, something that, larger employers, even if they have this side of their business that does, all the hiring of their internal employees, they might have like a, their legal office or something like that that handles kind of these mergers and acquisitions and things like that. And that might be where, whatever their due diligence is that they're doing as part of bringing on those partnerships, might want to consider doing the social media search.
Great. Well, that about covered it. And that was all that we had for today. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thank you.